Welcome back to another restaurant episode of Restauranttopia. Sitting here with none other than Dave Ross. Dave, great to have you back, brother.
I'm glad to be back, man. It's been a little too long, and although you guys have put down some excellent pod, I'm happy to be here to assist.
It's crazy. I just got a deja vu moment. I can't really explain it, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. You normally can't. Isn't that the whole deja vu thing?
I don't know. I just feel like we did this before.
Like,
yeah. I don't know what it is. But anyway, Dave's going to tell us today about how to establish a SWOT analysis for your restaurant, right? So, Dave, this is a big, scary kind of academic acronym that you learn in marketing classes. Let's talk about this a little more. Let's make it not so scary and apply it to restaurants. How can you apply it to a restaurant, and how do you do a SWOT analysis?
Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
Well, first of all, let's not sound like aliens here. Like, what is a SWOT analysis? Yeah. So SWOT is an acronym, SWOT, okay? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, okay? So what this is this is typically a marketing, branding, starting a business, resetting a business. But we're going to talk about this in the restaurant setting, okay? Because that's what we do, talk about restaurants. You know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Typically, internally, you're talking about your strengths and weaknesses, what you guys do great as a team and an organization, what you don't do great. Externally, opportunities and threats are more things like competitive or things outside of your four walls that you've got to consider in order to succeed and operate a profitable business. Make sense? Internal and external.
Yeah,
okay?
Tons of sense. I love that, because I'll be honest with you, I've heard this many, many times. As you know, I was a career student, so I've heard it talked about that, but I don't know that I've heard anybody kind of dissect it that clearly and simply. So I applaud you for that. The internal external thing is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, Google does amazing things.
Yeah. No, so is this only for marketing, or is this for just continual improvement cycle?
No, I think. Listen, if you're sitting there trying to, I think this is essential if you're starting a restaurant or starting a concept or starting something. But I think it's a great reset. I think if you've been
can I argue with you? Can we do
for,
this every 6 months? Or
yeah. I mean, I think to revisit it would be amazing.
Absolutely,
because things change. Yeah, things change. The environment changes. Mm-hmm. Competition changes. People change. Your team changes. Like all those things. So I think frequency on this would be great. Even just maybe not to do the whole project, just to revisit it. What can we add? What can we do
in a couple-hour workshop, couldn't you?
I think so, yeah. If you're efficient and you do some pre-work, I think so. And that'll bring me to one of my points here. Whoever's organizing this process and spearheading it, whether you're the owner, the GM, or whatever that is, I think you got to do a little prep work ahead of time on this.
Okay.
So some of these points that we're going to go through, I think it'd be nice for you to do this process yourself, solo, get some things down so that you can bring energy and maybe stop sticking points in the meeting, or places where people maybe they lose ideas, like just stoke the fire, get things going in the meeting. You've already kind of got some things ahead of time down, in that, Mm-hmm. So to start this, first of all, we got what, why conduct a SWOT analysis? Okay. Most importantly, if you're the head leader of your organization, so you can understand where you stand and where you're
self-awareness is crucial in improvement, right?
No question. Yeah. No question. So your management team can understand where you stand and where you're going. And most importantly, all of your employees at all levels understand where you stand and where you're going. And then take action. Once you're done with this project, actually do something about it. Take these things and points you and gets you progressing in the right direction.
Listen, just going through the exercises is very valuable for your staff. As you said, you're kind of establishing expectations. You're putting a quasi kind of mission statement, raising self-awareness. You're working on continual improvement. To your point, gosh, it's exponentially less effective if you don't take the action on the back end, right? So it's one thing to list it, one thing to be aware, but then what are you going to do with that data? What are you going to do with that information?
Yeah, and it becomes like a lot of things we do as leaders and managers. It becomes maybe potentially a little bit of a pep rally effect, where you have the thing and people get jazzed up, but then if you don't do anything, there becomes a little bit of a deflation. You know what I mean? Especially
if you're singing kudos, right?
Yeah.
We talked about this ad nauseum, but it's the over-promising and under-delivering aspect of things. And we are so guilty of that in this industry, because we're pretty emotional in hospitality, right? And that's kind of the spirit of it. But we tend to get really jazzed up and promise things to people like, that's a great idea, that's the best idea, we're going to do that. And then you don't do it. And then it has a contradictory effect on that said employee who was on cloud nine for a few days, and then as the inaction just keeps getting kicked down the road, and their happiness keeps waning. Right?
Yeah, for sure. So who should be a part of this analysis?
That's a great question.
Obviously, if you're spearheading it, whatever position you're in, but all of your managers, every level, assistant managers, front of the house, back of the house, openers, closers, like everybody involved in the leadership management of the organization.
Yes, maybe like trainers, key employees and managers. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Your chefs, all those things. You might say, Dave, front and back of the house in the same meeting. how am I going to do this? Well, if you have that question in your head, that might be one of your weaknesses.
Yeah,
and that needs to come up in this analysis.
But what's powerful about that is if you do have that problem, this very exercise is one way to help alleviate that problem. Now, there might be some flare-ups in there, but if it's a mediated professional conversation, you can honestly build bridges much easier through an activity like this, through honesty, through candid conversation. Now, if you have all your back of the house sitting on one side of the table in front of the house and you're just pointing fingers at each other when it comes to the weakness thing,
sure,
that sucks. But you start with the strengths, right? That's the first letter in the acronym, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's strengths for sure. No,
hopefully they're sitting on the opposite side of the table.
Yeah,
and they're trading compliments to kind of butter the bread or warm things up a little bit, right?
So starting with the strengths, and this seems obvious, but these are the areas of your business where you do the best. Okay, so this gives people the ability to have some fun, brag a little bit, brag on their, like you said, their counterparts, to be able to do that. Be self-aware and honest. If your chef comes in and says, "Man, I listen, one of our biggest strengths is my weekend features," and everybody kind of immediately goes, "Well," and the eyes roll. They're like, I don't want to shit on that idea, but what I mean, like that we got to be honest and candid with the people in that group that maybe they're not that good or as good as he thinks.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's sad that person would get to the table and still think that. If they're doing the weekend features every weekend and they sit at the table and say that and everybody disagrees, I think you have a more deep-rooted issue than what we're even talking about, right? Like,
well, it may not even be the quality of the weekend feature, but it could be that the weekend features only happen every 6 weeks. So it could be amazing, but we're just not doing them.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
fair
So
too.
so there's a lot of nuances in that to make it. I mean, that's one example of things that could go awry. But again, I mean, it's not even going awry. That's what needs to happen in that meeting. We need to be candid. We need to have radical candor, as we call it, to be able to have those discussions so that we can move forward together and not walk out of the meeting, like thinking, "Oh man, that guy's delusional."
Yeah. Well, and this is actually a great exercise, man, and I can speak to it personally. My wife does a SWOT analysis on me probably twice a day. It's not a two-way conversation, no.
Is it a WAST analysis or is it a SWOT?
It's really just a W analysis.
Oh, I love it. So let's go through some of the potential strengths of a restaurant.
Love it, man.
So it could be your culture. Okay, it could be the quality of the food. It could be profitability, price point, service, cleanliness.
Yeah.
It could be the way you could have.
That's an
strengths in
underrated
the way.
one right there.
Yeah. But listen, if you guys, if the organization, especially after the last couple of years of that being in the forefront, cleanliness and things like that with the pandemic, maybe that's something that you really took to the next level, and it is a strength now. And let's talk about it. Like what did we do? Why are we doing it?
So oddly enough, Beck and I went to lunch last week. We had a doctor's appointment, then we went to lunch afterwards. And we went to a local Indian joint in West Akron, and independent, in a little mall, a little strip mall, whatever, really off the beaten track. And we walk in there, and we're the only people in there. And she goes, "Oh, God, I'm worried." And I'm like, "Why?" She goes, "Because we're the only people in here." But I looked around. Walls were impeccably painted. Carpets were vacuumed. Like, it looked like every fiber in the carpet was combed. The tables were all perfectly set. Silverware everywhere. Menus, everything super clean and super organized. And I said, "We have nothing to worry about."
You're good.
Yeah, we're 100% good. And she's like, "Well, how do you know?" I said, "Because they pay this much attention to detail their cleanliness. I know what they're doing in the kitchen too."
Yeah.
And sure enough, the food came out. It was fresh. It was hot. It was delicious. It was super clean. Not a care in the world. They must have just had a slow day.
Yep.
But that cleanliness thing is...
Or you're there at a slow time, or you're there.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, they were doing some takeout, It speaks louder than a lot of people give it credit for.
Well, it speaks to the mindset and the details, like you said.
It's a microcosm.
Yeah, exactly. No question. Another thing is, do you do good nightlife or bar business? Do you have an advantage or a strength because of the cuisine? You talk about Indian food. Like if that's potentially some of the only Indian food in West Akron or in Akron in general, like that's a strength because you've got a cuisine that's not offered in other places in your competitors.
Yeah, go ahead and take the cheeseburger off the menu and double down on that korma.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah. Could be memorable decor. Could be the way you do marketing, promotions, campaigns, all those things. So once you have, I feel like the prep work, I want to talk a little bit about what I call a stretch goal, but you want to have the prep work ahead of time where maybe, let's say just for an example, you come up with 10 strengths that you feel really good about. But in the meeting, when you've got more people, I want you to go and present, guys, we're going to come up with 15. I would have your 10 listed, but I wouldn't have the ego to say like, well, I've got our first 10. Like, what else you guys got? You know what I mean? Like, let the banter happen, let the camaraderie happen, let the discussion happen, the conversation. Help guide it if it starts to stall or whatever. Maybe you toss one in, but try to, whatever you came up with, give the group a higher number to get to in each of these categories. Okay. So once you've got your list of your strengths, my suggestion is to go through and rank the top 5. Okay. And I want you to focus on profitability. And the reason is because, first of all, profit's not a dirty word.
No.
Profits create opportunity for your employees. It creates
reason
longevity of your company.
Yeah.
Like I don't know many restaurants that are in maybe, unless you're a soup kitchen or something like that, like it's typically not charity work. Like you're there to make money in order to have a thriving business and take care of your family and take care of your employees and have a sustainable future. Yeah. So pick the top 5 out of your list of 15, 20, whatever you come up with, that when you're strong at those things, or the fact that you are strong at those things, that those actually translate to profits. Okay? Get that top 5. Now we're going to transition to weaknesses. Okay, this one can be a little tougher. This one can be a little bit more focus on candid and honest. And,
yeah, this one's not easy.
This one is probably the most important one that you, as the leader or the organizer of this event, to actually have your list. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the more important one, because everybody's easy to talk about strengths. They're going to be typically less apt to talk about their weaknesses.
Well, this is why I like strengths first, because you butter everybody up, right? Yeah. And then it's easier to have the candid conversations.
Yeah.
And it's, as we've discussed it again, time and time again, like if you can't have these conversations, you need to check your people and make sure you get the right people in the room. Because I'll be honest, like when it comes to self-growth, when it comes to business growth, when it comes to family growth, there's a notion of honesty that has to exist there. You have to be able to call those things out, because as beings, like you're a self-aware guy, and I'm a pretty self-aware guy. I get stuff pointed out about me every day that I'm like, damn, I didn't know that about myself.
Yeah.
Like that sucks, right?
Yeah.
And your organization is the exact same way. But for the sake of improvement, you have to be willing to digest that information.
Yeah.
And first, someone has to be empowered and comfortable enough to say it to you.
Sure.
And that part's hard, right?
Yeah, and I think having, so as the leader, having that list prepared ahead of time, you're going to need to jumpstart this part of the exercise. You're going to need to talk about maybe your worst weakness and put it out there where people are going to go,
I love that. Yep.
Like, oh, he went there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then it's going to make them feel a little bit more, exactly.
That's right.
They're going to feel a little bit more comfortable to be able to open up and do that. And so you're going to have to massage this one a little bit. But
especially if you call yourself out, though.
Yeah.
Because then you create a space of comfort, right? Like, hey, listen, I'm comfortable if you guys don't like this, and this is what I do that I think is terrible. Yeah. And then maybe everybody else chips in a little bit, right? And says, yeah, this is what I should do better, and things like that.
Yeah, and listen, it could be a simple, again, to give an example, like, I'm the general manager, and I say, you know what? I think one of our major weaknesses is that the dinner time and the employees that execute that time frame. And to be honest with you, I think I'm the main culprit of that. And I want to apologize to everybody, first of all, but that's something that I'm going to work on.
Yeah, it's important to fall on your sword sometimes.
Boom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everybody's like, whoa, okay. Because they're all thinking like, yeah, you're right, Dick. Like, you're not around. You know what I mean? Like, you like coming in and being done by 4. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. So we're running a restaurant here. You know what I mean? Right. So I think that, uncovering some of that stuff that may be a little bit painful is good.
I can't disagree.
So what are the things you'd be weak at? Could be weak at culture. That's a tough one to vocalize. You know what I mean?
And it's not an easy fix either.
Lack of training, which you could probably put in most independent restaurants. It's probably in the list.
It's life.
Could be outdated equipment.
Yeah.
Could be your slow POS.
Right.
Could be you got a national broadline distributor that continuously has late trucks and shorts your product.
Well, that's a huge weakness. I mean, not everybody is wired like your favorite local independently family-owned operated distributor, Hillcrest Food Service.
Hillcrest Foods. And
we need a jingle.
Just off the top of my head. It could be turnover. It could be, all kinds of different things. But I want to focus on this one, like on training a little bit, because training, I feel like, is a weakness for a lot of local independent restaurants. You got to own it and you got to work on improving it. I think that from this exercise, unless you've really got training down, which you might, but most likely you don't have it to the best of your ability and could fall in that weakness category. As you're going through and talking about this training, I feel like it might be good to set up a training think tank or training workshop where you've got your stakeholders and maybe some new employees and maybe some older employees and get almost like a committee, like a training committee together to start saying like, okay, guys, we're going to go to the next level on training. What should this look like? Like when you started 5 years ago, Susie, like what was training like? What did you miss? Like how long did it take you to learn this and that? And then go to the person that's maybe been there 2 weeks and say, hey, how's it going for you? Like, do you feel supported? Do you feel trained? Do you feel, apt to do the job and all those things, and get all those perspectives and then try to put together. But I think if you put some people together on it, put a time frame on it doesn't have to be you. Like maybe it might be better if it's not you, and you send people out to, hey, work on this and bring me back what you've got. I think that could be beneficial.
And we have a lot of different levels of honesty, right? So when the owner of the restaurant comes up to the hourly employees, that's how your training going, it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, right? Because they're playing the political shuffle there. Sure. They don't know how to tap dance appropriately to make sure that they raise awareness to the issue, but while not getting someone in trouble, right? Or in the GM, same thing. There's the same dynamic there, just lessened a little bit. But when you talk about peers, that peer-to-peer conversation, then you get the truth.
Right.
Right?
No, totally. Because people are continually trying to assess their communication based on how that is received.
Yeah,
For sure.
All day, every day, brother.
Yeah.
No matter what. And then I'm one of those guys too. I'm laying in bed and I'm like, man, why did I share that much information, or why did I say that in that conversation, right? Because I'm always self-analyzing to a fault, even. But to your point, and I find myself in situations I'd have a wildly different conversation with you than I would, say, the owner of the company, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, and you would hope not, but it's human nature.
Yeah,
You know what I
of
mean?
course
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, I'm not trying to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Listen.
No, for sure. So that's weaknesses. All right. So opportunities. So these are opportunities to get better, to improve. Okay. Now, again, this, I started with these should be external things. So some of these opportunities could be external, but this is kind of like the wedge between external and internal, because there's going to be some things that maybe there's an opportunity, but we have to get better at this in order to grab it. How are your areas of weakness can be improved? So that's why weakness comes right before this, because they can tie into each other, because you may be missing out on opportunity because of a weakness. And then how can you double down on your strengths? So I'm going to completely steal this thought process from Josh Kopel. And I want to call it, I don't know if he called it this, but I'm going to call it like sweatpants versus dessert. Okay. So here's how I want to deliver this, is that, to double down on your strengths, okay, or try to improve a weakness is really what we're talking about. So let me use the example of, Friday night, we're already busy. To be able to double down with ideas and things to grab opportunities on those days could be way more beneficial, and most of the time is, than trying to take a weak sales day and increase it.
Yeah.
So why I call it sweatpants versus dessert is that it's way easier to figure out, how do I achieve selling more desserts and moving that top line revenue and bottom line profit on the Friday, Saturday night, than to try to get somebody out of their sweatpants on a Monday.
Yeah. God, when he said that hit me like a ton of bricks. It's absolutely true. So you're trying to change buying behavior. Also, too, I think we could probably dissect about 30 other relationships between sweatpants and desserts that work out pretty nicely.
Oh, we could go down that.
Yeah. I love sweatpants.
No, they're great.
Yeah.
They're great, but I just don't wear them on Friday night.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
To do something to get somebody actually off of their couch into your restaurant is way harder than to get somebody that's in your restaurant to do something a little different, to buy the bottle of wine, to get the appetizer, to get the dessert, to splurge on the special, to do those.
We miss a lot of opportunities to market to the people that are in-house.
Totally.
And I've worked for a couple of operators that were master class at that. And you spend all the time on social media and everything else, but sometimes it's like, it's not a bad idea just to talk to the 200 people that are in your dining room right now and let them know what you have going on next week, right? And spend the time there. Because you have that person-to-person contact is so profound.
No question.
But to your point, these people on Friday and Saturday are maybe a couple cocktails in. They're celebrating a special occasion. They got their wallets out, credit cards on the table. They're ready to spend it. Just give them a reason.
Absolutely. Yeah, they want to give you their money. Give them an opportunity to give it to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. Like, you've got a dining room full of people, yet your head's out the door looking down the street.
Right.
Saying, come in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, no, work the people that are in the room.
Exactly.
They're there.
Right.
They've chosen you.
Yeah. And they'll come back.
Yeah.
You keep delivering value and keep giving them
question.
reason to come back. I mean, and listen, this is the oldest thing in business ever, is that repeat business is better than new business.
Yeah. So some of the things, like in previous episodes, you talked about LTOs and different things, like those are opportunities. Like, maybe we don't do that well. That's a weakness. So, what are some things that are opportunities out there, things that are coming up, events, stuff happening in the city, whatever it is, like, how do we create something that attaches to that and allows us to enjoy that opportunity?
Right.
So that discussion is important, because everybody's going to have a different perspective. Maybe we have a cuisine that's missing a certain part of town because of the ethnicity or whatever. Like, we got to work on that, or, whatever it is. So, there's having a discussion with the leaders of your organization, I think, is important to mine out those opportunities and figure out a strategy to go after them. And again, if you have a lot of stuff that comes out of that aspect of the meeting, the opportunities, narrow it down to the top couple ones that drive the most profit and
Pareto's principle,
and
man.
get them done.
Yeah, don't try to chase your tail on all 35 items or 12 items.
Don't go 10% on 100 things. Like, go 2 things 100%.
Yes, absolutely. And quite frankly, the top 20% is going to make all the impact anyway, right?
Absolutely.
And then further, you're making it digestible. It's so much easier when things are in bite-sized chunks. If you got a list of 40 things, it's overwhelming. You got a list of 3 bullet points, all of a sudden,
I can jam 3 out. I can get that done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you can introduce a list of new 3 next time.
Yep.
But you don't have to present it all. You don't have to work it all at one time. Quite frankly, any bullet points that you get, and master is an improvement over where you were yesterday.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of value in it.
No question. No question. So the last bullet point is threats. Okay. So what are the things that could harm your business?
Bears.
Okay. Bears. Yeah.
Yeah, bears.
Loose in the restaurant or just bears in general?
In general, yeah. Whether loose in a restaurant, in your dumpster, or wherever. I'm petrified of bears.
I was listening to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And he had Brendan Schaub on. I don't know if you know who Brendan Schaub is, but he has a podcast. But he was a college football player, and then he might have played in the NFL a little bit, and then he was in MMA and whatever. Okay. So he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and they ended up talking for some reason about bears and the difference between different bears and how they would eat people. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
And they talked about, I think it was a grizzly bear. Some bears are different, like maybe bigger cats or just things you could be scared of in the wilderness will kill you and then eat you, where a grizzly bear just starts eating you.
Really?
And I was like, that's, first of all, really weird shit to talk about, but it was fascinating to me. I was like pinned to this conversation about.
Apparently, you're just not an existential threat to the bear, so they just don't care. They're just going to take a bite. They're not even going to bother going for the kill. Yeah,
I don't know, but it was definitely.
I saw my buddy shared a picture of some sushi he had in Japan. He lives in Japan, and he shared some sushi, and it was like the side of the fish, the fillet of the fish was fanned out, beautiful sashimi cuts. The head of the fish and the tail of the fish were still served with the sashimi cuts. Thing was, the gill plate was still moving up and down.
What?
So the fish wasn't completely dead yet. They butchered the fish, filleted it, sashimi, put it on the plate. The tail's wriggling and the gill plate's going up and down.
I mean, well, the gill plate means it's breathing, right? Or still like,
yeah, there's still
it's trying to breathe.
Well, there's some nervous stuff going on there, nervous system.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that just like a chicken with its head cut off kind of thing, or is it like
yeah? But it's still grizzly, right?
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Was that intentional? You think, or he just?
No, it's the thrill of it.
So that's something that the restaurant did intentionally.
Yeah, that's how fresh the fish is. Right? Yeah. So it's kind of like the grizzly bear eating people when they're alive. It's the same thrill. I feel guilty.
I don't know how comfortable I would be eating that.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
I know. And speak with chicken with its head cut off. Like I had a few chickens as a kid from I think biology class or something. We hatched eggs or whatever, and I took a couple home and I had the pen and I fed it every day and all this stuff. And then it came time to kill the chicken. My dad thought. And I was like, I don't want to be any part of this. And then maybe, a day or two later, like chicken salad is what's for dinner. And I'm not even thinking about it.
Oh, seriously?
And then after the fact, I was like, oh, God.
I always marvel at the 4-H kids. And they grow these pigs and they get attached to them or cows or whatever. And they go to market. Yeah. There's a thing circulating on the internet right now. It's talking about the little piggy who went to the market. And I had this misconstrued growing up, too. That piggy didn't go shopping, bro. I don't know if you ever realized that or not.
The market was something a little different.
Yeah, and it's all over. It's all over the internet now, right? It's gone viral because
are they canceling it like Dr. Seuss? Or what
who
are they
knows?
Doing? But let's get back to threats.
Oh yeah.
Bears are a threat for sure. No question. Bears are a threat. Yeah. But what other things could threaten your business? It could be competition. Could be new competition. Could be competition that's getting better.
Yeah,
could be competition. Could be competition that just did a SWOT analysis and is improving their stuff. And,
you know what
I mean? Like it could be that.
To me, the biggest threat is yourself, and I'll say that time and time again. And I know it's cliche, and I know it's idealistic and all that jazz, but the truth is like.
There's a no fear shirt, or it's a poster in your office, right? Yeah.
Oh, no fear shirts. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? The fact is, if you do food and service really good, then you should probably stay in business because we've proven there's a lot of place for a lot of restaurants in Cleveland. There's a big pie here in Columbus and wherever you're at. There's a big pie. Everybody can have a piece. Yeah. But you don't get a piece if you're not doing doing you really, really great. Yeah. And so I would argue your threat, start with that. Start with your internal threats first.
No, I like that. And I think the idea that you've identified some weaknesses, like what threats do your weaknesses expose? Correct. So that's another thing to think about.
Well, and you gave the metaphor earlier where you have a dining room full of people and you have your head out the window, right? It's the same thing with threats. Is you're worried about the competition down the road, but you're not worried about the lack of LTOs or the poor execution on these menu items. You're more worried about what the competition's doing. It's like, hey, you need to focus internally, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no question.
Those are the tougher thoughts to have and tougher conversations to have. But the truth is, they're the most effective.
Yeah. So what are some of the threats could be? It could be some, again, externally, it could be the supply chain's a threat. So what are we doing with our menu or different things to take advantage of that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Inflation's a threat.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? New competition's a threat. Missing a trend could potentially be a threat. Something that's happening that you would fit well in your concept. You just haven't grabbed a hold of it, like all those things. So again, going through that process, going through strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I think at the end, if you do it as a group, if you collab, we started this, I think, by saying this could be a couple-hour deal, but I don't know. I think this could be, this potentially could be an hour on each one over a period of time, and then come back and mold it. I think it's worth the time. I think it's worth the effort.
Oh my God, yeah.
And this is not for a business that's failing or that's ready to go out of business. Like, this is for somebody that, you've got a good business, you're doing food and service pretty well, and but you want to go to the next level. You want to grab all those different things, because all those little details are what's going to really allow you to pay your people right, allow you to, stay in business, have longevity, and have hospitality, which is what we got in this to do.
Yeah, no question. I love the continual improvement cycle. And I'll be honest, I had never thought of a SWOT analysis outside of marketing, right? And I've taken a handful of marketing classes, right? And I've learned a lot about marketing. And if we talked about SWOT analysis, I've never seen anyone do one effectively, because marketing is confusing. I think it's probably why we focus so much on this podcast is it's confusing, but it doesn't need to be. And we brought in some amazing guests who are mastermind marketers to help simplify that process. But with this, applying this to your continual improvement, like, dude, mind blown.
Yeah, but I think continual improvement is hard. So some of it is like, if you're the one that wants to get this started, and you start thinking about this stuff, but then you start thinking about the work it's going to create, you may not even get in the meeting. You know what I mean?
But to your point, 1-2 items at a time.
Yeah,
right. Because
sure.
Listen, if you do 1 or 2 items, that's a hell of a lot better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
So maybe you start small.
Yeah.
And you start with knocking out some easy tasks, like me working through my day off. It's like, okay, I get 10 hard tasks and 2 easy tasks. I'm gonna start with the easy ones, build some momentum. Right?
Yeah.
And then I get addicted to the wins, and all of a sudden I'm doing this regularly.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think once you've got it all done, and once you've got it massaged, and you've got it figured out, and you've got it ranked, and you've got it focused on what's going to drive profitability and help the business, work on a presentation to the staff. Get your managers together, and let's work on how we're going to present this to the employees.
See, that was going to be my question. At what point do you bring them in? Because I'll be honest, their point of view is often so valuable, right? We as managers think we know everything that's going on. Right. And it's just like as a parent, you think you know everything going on. But if you get your kids' perspective of what they're doing behind your back, or what they feel about certain things, they don't want to be confrontational. They want to posture, just like we talked about at the top of this episode. So they don't want you to feel a certain way about them. So they don't bring these things to attention. They kind of keep things hidden, and they work behind the scenes a little bit.
Let me give you an idea on that. I think that it could work out well. Is don't have them in the meeting, but maybe preemptively before the meeting, you've done your work, and then maybe there's an anonymous survey that goes out.
Yeah.
That they're able to give some things that maybe you didn't think of, or just because of your position in the organization, you wouldn't have insight into it or perspective.
Yeah.
Let them do that anonymously, give you some of the feedback. Hey, what are the strengths you feel? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? And then get that feedback, and you might find a couple things that, oh wow, that wouldn't have come up in the meeting with the leadership.
Yeah, so it's like icing on the cake, right?
Yeah.
So you spend the time with your brass baking the cake and doing the most important thing, and then you let your staff decorate it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think even during the presentation, if there's stuff that comes up in feedback, I think it's important, but I think it should be a presentation, not a collaborative workshop, because it could end up, like you said, it could be a waste of time because nobody wants to be honest, or if somebody starts really being honest, it could be more directed from their vantage point, or to their advantage rather than the organization's advantage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a waste of time as well.
I do want their input.
For sure.
I want to keep the train on the tracks.
Yeah, but we want to talk about what's best suited for the company moving forward, for the organization moving forward.
That's it. And what it's kind of like is if you do your work preemptively as the senior, or the person who holds this meeting, you do the work and you catalyze the discussion. So you guide the entire thing. Right. But if you haven't done your work ahead of time, it's harder to guide that conversation.
No question.
Right? You know, it's hard to lead them down a path you've never been on yourself. So if you spend the time going down the path, then you can kind of keep them in track, right? When it goes off topic, you can bring them right back in, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and every great employee should have a mindset, or every great employee probably does have a mindset, that if I put the organization and company first, it's going to serve me well.
No question.
And when I put myself first, or I put my agenda first, like it typically is does the reverse.
It's life in general, brother.
Absolutely. So no, this was awesome. This is all I got on this one, but I think it's a great thing to start. It's probably not done a lot in restaurants, but I think it's something that if you're an operator and want to go to the next level, it's important to get figure out how to get this done.
Well, listen, man, not to toot your horn too much, because I know your ego is going to get out of check, but this is something I'm going to steal from you. I love the simplicity of this. I love the step-by-step aspect of this, because we talk a lot about continual improvement, and I do a lot of my consultations, right? But I speak from 10,000 feet above. This is a way to get it down and get it granular and get it moving real quick.
Sure.
And I absolutely adore this, man. Thanks for bringing this to the table.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this isn't, this is going to help.
No, I could see this as maybe a 5th installment of Restaurant Hospitality Academy.
I love it, man. I'm into it. It's awesome. I need more.
All right, close it.
I don't know how to close it.
Close it. Tell me how great I am.
Yeah. Dave, you are so great. No, hey, listen, thanks for listening to another episode of Restauranttopia. We appreciate it as always. Thank you so much. And a shout out to our sponsor, Hillcrest Food Service. We can't thank them enough for allowing us to do this. Here's to hoping it helps. And if you got anything to say, please shoot us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Take care, everybody.
See you next time.
This is a high quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.
All right, take 2 of strengths of our podcast, content, weaknesses, hitting and record. Brian, I know you're going to hear this, but we just did 15 beautiful minutes of SWOT analysis episode. It didn't hit the record button.
Yeah, I think he'll appreciate that. He'll appreciate that. All right, you ready?
I don't know.
Ready?
So I'm a little bit defeated, but I'm going to bring it back here.
You should, man. That was gold. You can replicate that, even if it comes in silver. We're still better off than where we were 5 minutes ago.
Fuck silver. Let's do it.
All right, man.
We are excited to announce the Restaurantopia VIP Text Club. Join by texting the word podcast to 844-928-4257. You will get access to exclusive content, industry news, deals, announcements, pro tips, and more. The VIP Text Club is an exclusive community of independent restaurant owners and professionals. Join today. Message and data rates may apply. Please check our website for our terms of service and privacy policy.
Opportunities. Let's talk about opportunities.
Yeah, okay. You talk. This isn't my topic. You talk.
So these are.
Well,
I'd like to talk with you.
You just told me to talk about opportunities. I didn't have notes on this show.
Let's talk about opportunities.
Oh, that's much better.
And
you just pulled the sites move there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does it so seamlessly, right?
No, I know.
And I know in his head, he's like, I'm just going to edit that out, so I'm just going to restart. That was beautiful.
No, I think by this point we should we should know that pretty well.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge your tact and your skillfulness there. That was
appreciate
nice.
that. I'll thank Brian for that little move.
Yeah, that's right. Pattern.
Or actually, he should thank me.
Yeah, he should always
much
thank
more
you.
easy editing.
Brian should always thank us in general.
So